The Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Pride Seeds, High Stick NT, and Cruiser Max Vibrance Beans.
Back on the Soybean School again with Horst Bohner. OMAFRA is a soybean specialist, sir. I want to talk about, you've been doing a lot of trials, running a lot of trials, and the Ontario trials, soybean trials, are now available on GoSoy.ca. When you look at these trials, what do you tell growers about them? What should they be looking for?
Right, so I think first maybe we can just hit on the fact that these trials are collaborative with the University of Guelph, with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada, OMAFRA, and the industry. So there's a lot of players here. You know, when we have our committee meeting, we'll have over 40 individuals there. So it's not just one or two players, so let's start with that. And it's usually 18, 19 sites per year, right? So there's a lot of trials, and then we have them broken out into Roundup versus conventional, and the Roundups are only sprayed with Roundup, and so on. So these are big trials, right? Big trials with, in some cases, you know, well over 100 entries per trial, and significantly more in some cases. So it just depends on the region. And the geography is huge as well. New Liskeard all the way down to Woodsley, right? That's huge geography over to Ottawa, Essex.
North, south, east, west.
Yeah. So the point is, I'm just throwing that out to give you a sense that we really are trying as an industry to provide good information to growers on how these varieties rank against each other, because in the soybean world, we know variety selection is key to anything you do, right?
What about, I'm looking at, we've got some of the charts here up on the screen right now. And
right.
Where should I focus in selecting data from this data?
Yeah, so I think the first thing, we're used to looking at the charts in terms of the ranking as a percentage, which is simply a percentage of the whole trial, right? But like you mentioned, if you go to the web page, on there are the maturity versus yield graphs, right? And it's a very quick and easy way to look at bushels per acre versus days to maturity across the bottom. And what you'll see there, of course, is that most sites, especially further north, not true always in the south, is that the longer maturing beans yield more, but that's not the whole story, right? You have to consider, of course, you know, what you can get away with in the whole wheat story and all that. But overall, fundamentally, there are big differences as the maturity lengthens, but that's not the only thing. You can have, within one experiment or one table, up to a 10 bushel yield difference from the very bottom to the top, right? Now you're going to say, well, you know, are those trials representative of our fields? And, you know, I tried them and I didn't see 10, I only, whatever. The answer is absolutely. There is nothing wrong with that data. That is the best data that is available, and those small plots work very well to compare genetics. You know, they don't always work for agronomy, but for genetics, those things work. And the reason I say that is we've tried it in the field, and the comparisons are relative. The overall numbers are sometimes a bit inflated because of the small plot scenario. And when I mean inflated, I just mean they're all a little bit bigger than you'd want. Yeah. They're all pumped up, but relative to each other, they're very good, right?
So should a grower look at, you know, a chart and say, hey, I'm growing this one, maybe I should do some plots on some of these other ones?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable strategy. You know, we're not saying this is the be all and end all on your farm, but at least it gets you down the road of deciding where that variety fits in the big picture. And how are guys using it, to be honest with you? I was talking to one of the seed companies this morning. They're sold out of their top variety. And you know what guys do? They look at either the chart or the tables. They look for a very high yielding number, and that's the one they buy. And is that the best strategy? Let me put it this way: it's certainly not a bad strategy. That's the point of those trials, right?
Hey, one thing, if you look at these trials, you look in there, you see a lot of other information: white mold, SCN.
Yes.
I mean, resistance. There's a lot of other data that you can factor in to making a decision. Hey, are growers using enough of that data, Horst, or how can they employ it?
That's a good point, right? So on the web page on GoSoy.ca, there are other charts and other information, and you can even just punch in one variety or compare a few varieties and look at the 1 year or the 2 or the 3 or the 5 year comparison. It's more than available just on the actual printout of the performance trials. So I would encourage anyone to go on there and explore a little bit, right? You brought up white mold. The white mold trials are what we have is up there. Is it the picture for every variety? No, you can't test, but we do what we can as an industry, and it's up there, right? So for sure, you're hitting on some interesting points there. There's a lot of effort that's put into understanding the varieties that we have. Yeah, I think fundamentally, right, you have to understand about soybeans. This is it. Like, I mean, we know that that's true also for wheat and corn, but there's more other things that you can manipulate in those crops. In soybeans, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you should spend the majority of your soybean dollar on the variety and fertility. Those are the big ones, and there's other things, but those are the big ones. So sometimes we get excited about the cost of soybean seed, and it is continually going up, and it is a big factor. But I'd still rather spend significantly more and have the potential of 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bushels more than keeping some of my old seed that I've had around forever, right?
Exactly, and starch, and you can learn more by checking out the Ontario Soybean Trials at
GoSoy.ca, which stands for Growing Ontario Soy.ca.